Dungeon
world building,
Doomhands, Let's
during
Talk
your next,
Lore, a
game
podcast.
night session. Tonight we have a special guest, Tyler York, aka the Booter, and it's gonna be funny. He can tell us a story about that if he wants. But the primary focus tonight is going to be how to build a player character, and then everyone has their own way of doing it. This is just one way that we suggest going about doing it. And I wanted to open it up first with introducing Tyler. Hello, and also saying.
Hey.
Do you have familiarity with playing Dungeons & Dragons? I know you told me before you did. And how long of a... Let's go to like session 0. Did you have a session 0?
I actually don't really know what session 0 means. I guess I'll just to run through it really quickly.
Yeah.
I've played in like 3 campaigns in my life, all of which kind of ended probably as many D&D campaigns do, with just sort of the group dissolving without it being at a particular point in the story or anything like that. You know, longest one was probably like 3 or 4 months. Obviously played a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 recently, and you know, back in the day I played Neverwinter Nights, so I'm familiar at least with like kind of the rule systems of D&D.
Right.
And I'm excited to do this with you guys.
I guess, or like a session 1 type thing would be the very first time that you meet like your dungeon master, and you would be the first time that you sit down with the whole players and you kind of go through and you either build your characters or bring someone with you. From my experience before doing this online version that we've been doing for several years now, session 0 would be like, I want to be Chris, maybe you have a better explanation since you've done session 0s before, way more than I have.
Normally, more than the 3. Way to come to an agreement about what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be playing, how you're going to be playing it, like the understanding of the rules, what everyone is and is not okay with, thematic-wise or story-wise, or what you're looking to get out of the campaign, how long it's going to be. Is all the details that you would want to know to make the commitment to play further in that game.
I'm interested about with you is in this particular episode of Let's Talk Lores. First, I want to know. I'm very excited to get a new player in the group. That's gonna be awesome. We've been doing 3 years of just the core group here. We need another person. And fresh air, it's going to be fantastic. No matter who you pick to play, it's going to be awesome. But also, let's get into your character. I want to show people sometimes how the dungeon master and the player should talk outside of the game nights to get their character into the storyline. It doesn't have to be much. So tell us your background story and sort of your character.
Yeah, and I actually think sharing kind of my thought process will be helpful. So first and foremost, I mean, you guys are an existing game, right? You have a ton of backstory already. We got on a call and you gave me the Cliff Notes version, which I really appreciate, because love your channel, but I don't know if I could sit down and watch all of it in a row. What I will say is that you basically, coming into a game, would look to fit into the existing game. Like, that maybe sounds obvious on its face, but I feel like some people just show up and they're like, I want to be like XYZ. And it's like, sure, you can, but like, does that actually make sense? So at least for me, that was important. And then you gave me a lot of helpful sort of like context that helped shape the character. We agreed originally, so my character is going to be named Boot R Bot 5000, which is a homage to my fraternity nickname, and all I'll say about that. But the thing that's funny about that is, that actually gave us a kind of a cool character direction, right?
Yes.
Like, it was going to be a robot. We were going, like, how is that? Okay, so there's Warforged, there's like an option there. And how are we going to like kind of play off of that? And so, like, if you're sitting down and you're just like, who do I want to be? That part's usually really hard for me, right?
Yes.
And so having some guardrails and sort of some context really helps, like, you be like, oh, okay, so then I can do this. And you can kind of think of creative twists on it. And so I thought like, you handled that really well.
I think that completely depends on the player too. So like, I am okay with whatever you want to do. I like things fitting together like a puzzle. Like if I were to put together a jigsaw puzzle and one piece is missing, I want to be upset. I'm going to be really upset. But certain players like to come in just rando, and I think like Matt, who you're going to meet, and he's more of like a chaos rando. He'll surprise you. He'll say, you know what, I got the guy. I'm going to come in. We'll go from there. But yeah, I think the way that we did it, you have a little session 0, if you will, with yourself and the dungeon master. It doesn't have to be in front of the group. Sometimes I feel like those groups session 0s are good because it introduces everyone to the story and everything, but I still think there needs to be a little communication one-on-one with the dungeon master when everyone is doesn't necessarily have to be at session 0, but just slowly in like the next session or two, just to see how you like to play the game. So you'll notice when I after the first game with you, I will hound you to answer a couple of questions. What did you like? Did you like that? Did you want something else? Every now and then I even just randomly will go on vacation, we'll miss a session. I'll send everyone group messages saying, does anyone want to do a specific thing? Like, besides Aaron, because I know Aaron only wants magic items. Like, that's the only thing that he or like to steal stuff. But like, I feel like getting to know your character and their playstyle, we're able to. I didn't think of it that way, but the way that you articulated it, yeah, I think the way we did it sort of fits your particular playstyle. I'm not sure. Chris, did you have any sort of like session 0 type things with your characters? I guess, how was your session 0 with ours? You've had multiple players, so it's not like coming in.
Well, the first one was we're starting something new. I have no idea what's going on. I'll just make a random cool character that I want to play, that throw in whatever. But after that, I've always tried to do what Tyler is doing, trying to make it fit
with the story.
For like Lone Star, it's whatever the character is, it doesn't matter. It's like the story, the connection to, not spoiling anything, the connection to Talos that he has. And then Wilbur, the connection to the heroes, is just trying to, I love that idea of just trying to be like a random person that you're going to meet along the story, and they jump in.
Me with both of those characters. Actually, all three of your characters, you've had sidebar conversations with me about certain things. So Booter, conversation pretty big for just anyone doing Dungeon Master. So I'm glad that we did that. Let's go into your character's backstory.
Yeah, real quick, one last note on sidebars. I love doing sidebars, especially in character creation, because you and the DM can kind of set up surprises for the party, which is fun. And that's a trick that I learned from my old boss about 5 years ago, named Nick Ingham. Shout out. He was a total chaos machine, and him and the DM agreed ahead of time for him to have some special item that he would roll 1d20 and he would get one of 20 different things. Right, and like a lot of the stuff was outrageous for like a level 2 or 3 character casting a level 5 warlock spell, for instance. So it's like you can set up stuff like that early on. You can't do it when you're facing the dragon and the dragon's about to kill you.
This group, then, if that's something that you wanted to do. No spoilers or anything on the Let's Talk Lore for our Doomhand show, but yeah, cover your ears, Chris. We can talk. Call me. We've done that a couple times. But so yeah, let's go into your guys. So Warforged. I know that we had talked, and what's funny about your Warforged guy? I had completely forgot that Chris and I actually I flew down to Florida and we did just he and I met a couple of the other guys supposed to come, but they couldn't go for personal reasons. So I went anyway, and I said, screw it, let's just do a session 35. It was what it was, which is why session 35 doesn't exist on YouTube, because we did it in person. And we had gnomes, a gnome named Trapple and Griffin, and then we had Warforged robots. And guess what? They were all from Trigard, and
their regards linked to them.
Completely forgot. Honestly, I swear to God, forgot that through my notebook of like 1,000 notes, and I was like, I hope I can get all this together. And then there it was again. ironing out your story. So let's hear your guys' story. It's an awesome one. Really excited.
I'm grateful you like it. So the idea, and please stop me if I'm saying things that are spoilers, but the idea, right, is that they went back in time,
Yes.
right? And now they're in a town called Striad,
Yes.
where they're going to be soon attending the Harmony ceremony. And it's a town with, gnomes and the other groups, right? I didn't
Yes.
write them down for some reason. But basically, the idea here was, okay, how do we introduce a robot? So I am coming in as basically a robot, like butler, like a robot assistant for a wealthy gnome in Striad. I have no memory before my time as a robot for this guy. It's been my whole life. You could think of me almost like, Jeeves from Batman or whatever, but just the robot version. And, also a chef, also a bodyguard. But, my military capabilities, let's say, are pretty limited and mostly to bodyguard stuff. This guy lives in a peaceful town. I haven't really seen any action at all in sort of war-related things or fighting. It's 150 years ago, so I am a Triguard manufactured Warforged robot and combat robot, but I'm going to be 150 years old when we go back to the present time, whenever that happens.
You know what? That summary of what we did is so much clearer and so much more articulate than the usual recap, I guess. But yeah, so your guy is going to be, I think is going to fit in perfectly. I am very excited.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, it's so funny. I have such a good spoiler, not a spoiler, but I'm not going to do it for you here, but I know who your gnome is, and I know why he's no longer there. But your guy would know this, and Chris also knows what the harmony ceremony is when the Ceramorphs and the gnomes in Striad have this harmony ceremony where the gnomes offer up bodies for the Ceramorphs to infect, and that becomes their symbiotic relationship in the town. So that gnome, whoever it is that we decide to create, whatever his particular name, I think he'll be a high, and what they like to do is they like to have a couple of what makes some of the harmony ceremonies important is that it gives the Ceramorphs an opportunity to climb the social status in the group, so that they're not always these weird infected people. They're also like a nobleman who's just so happens to be a Ceramorph. So maybe one of your guys is one of the guys that's being offered that evening.
Right.
So your guys is going to be. It's going to be funny how you introduce your character. I'm pretty excited about that. That was my little salt sprinkle on your story.
Sprinkle.
So I felt like to wrap up this short portion of tonight's Let's Talk Lore, I think when it comes to player character and fitting their stories in, sidebars are important because that makes it an intimate conversation between you and the player and what they're like, and then sprinkle a little salt on their story, I guess.
Right. Well, you did a great job of it where, so you gave me context. I threw out here's what I want to do. I'm for a gnome aristocrat. I don't really care what happens to him, but obviously something has to happen where I join the party. And then you came back and were like, all right, I have a plan for that. So it's like a bit of back and forth with the DM. I think it's great.
Chris?
I'm going to throw one other thing in there. Those sidebars, when you're adding your character in there and linking it in, is one of the most fun places to world build as a player, because you're already having that conversation of linking your character into the world. So just make up the craziest stuff you can think of and try and convince your DM to let that be part of your backstory and be in the world.
And the very next, we're going to take a quick break, and then on the very next session, we're going to get into, first off, some roles for your character, and then also we're going to link this all back to world building, as Chris said. So Chris, you hold on to that thought, because you're 100% correct. Towns and islands and cities and places on my Wonderdraft map. I got to send you the map of the city of the world we're in, called Unbegon, which is dwarf for skull. It's going to be. Did you know that?
Yes,
No.
yes, it did.
All right. Well, anyway, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Hit subscribe for some more world building advice. We'll see you soon in a second.